On April 1st, 2002, one of the eastern seaboard's most notorious predator priests was arrested in Jamaica, Queens, ending a legacy of abuse that spanned 3 decades. Brooklyn-born Romano Ferraro attended Christ the King Seminary near Buffalo from 1954 to 1957. While there in 1955, he admitted to a priest that he had thoughts about sexually abusing young boys. The warning signs were simply dismissed. In 1960, Romano Ferraro was ordained a priest in the Diocese of Brooklyn and assigned to St. Joseph, patron of the Universal Church. Here he began an alarming pattern of moving from one parish to another, repeatedly reassigned for reasons which wouldn't come to light for more than 40 years. In 1962, Ferraro was transferred to St. Rosalia in Brooklyn and was reassigned to St. Lucy Parish the next year. At St. Lucy, the pastor noted, Ferraro was mentally unbalanced and needed treatment. However, Father Ferraro was again transferred, this time to Holy Family in Brooklyn. Though he would later admit to abusing children at all of his early assignments, Holy Family is where his earliest documented crimes of child sexual abuse came to light. Grooming, then preying on boys while supervising outings to a local pool and on school trips to New Jersey. Despite the documented evidence of the threat he posed, Ferraro was simply reassigned. Following a 4-year stint at Holy Family, Romano Ferraro entered the Navy as a chaplain in Key West, where he continued grooming and sexually exploiting young boys. He was soon asked to resign as a result of his predatory behavior, a pattern that would be repeated at St. Rose of Lima in Far Rockaway, where he worked from 1971 to 1973, with the same results. It was around this same time that Ferraro began sexually abusing a boy in Billerica, Massachusetts. Beginning when the boy was just 7, the near decade of abuse would eventually lead to Ferraro's arrest. In 1973, Father Ferraro underwent extensive psychiatric treatment and was back in ministry the following year. From 1974 to 1977, Ferraro was assigned to St. Joseph's in the Diocese of Rockville Center, where he raped multiple boys, ranging in age from 7 to 11 years old. One of the survivors later reported that sometimes Ferraro used a gun to threaten the children while abusing them. In 1977, Monsignor Anthony Bevilacqua of the Diocese of Brooklyn wrote an internal memo on Ferraro. Bevilacqua, who would later become the Archbishop of Philadelphia and was instrumental in vast cover-ups there as well, downplayed the overwhelming evidence detailing Ferraro as a serial child rapist. Ferraro remained in ministry. No disciplinary action was taken. Meanwhile, Ferraro was transferred from St. Joseph's to St. Francis Xavier in Park Slope, then again to St. Aloysius in Queens in 1978. Sometime shortly after, he was hospitalized at the House of Affirmation, a Missouri treatment center for priests accused of child sexual abuse. In 1981, church officials assigned him to work in St. Louis, Missouri, where he went on to abuse several more boys, one of whom would later take his own life. Throughout the 1980s, Father Ferraro was shuffled around Missouri and New Jersey, including 3 parishes in the Diocese of Metuchen, St. James in Woodbridge, Our Lady of Mount Virgin in Middlesex, and St. John Vianney in Colonia. In 2004, a woman alleged that Father Ferraro sexually abused her 2 minor sons during his time as a priest in New Jersey. From 1987 to 1988, he worked at St. Rita's in Staten Island, New York. As indicated in the memorandum of Monsignor Garcia to the confidential file of Father Ferraro, the Archdiocese of New York contacted the Diocese of Brooklyn regarding an allegation of child sexual abuse against Father Ferraro in 1988. Consequently, in 1989, Father Ferraro was suspended and underwent treatment at the St. Luke Institute in Sweetland, Maryland, long known as a treatment center for priests who perpetrate child sexual abuse. Romano Ferraro was finally removed from ministry in 1989 and placed at Parsons Manor at the Catholic Medical Center of Brooklyn and Queens in Jamaica. Ferraro would spend the next 13 years at Parsons until his 2002 arrest for his abuse of the boy in Massachusetts. During subsequent court proceedings involving Ferraro, The Diocese of Brooklyn was forced to disclose over 1,200 pages of documents, detailing the long and tragic paper trail that the church had compiled on Ferraro. One report after another described Ferraro as a man unfit for the priesthood and a clear and present danger to children. Romano Ferraro is currently serving a life sentence in a Massachusetts prison.